Resident's Guide to Heat Safety. This webinar was recorded on April 8, 2025. It has been edited for brevity.
My name is Drew McGallion. I am a captain with the Mesa Fire Medical Department. I've been with the fire department for almost 20 years, and as part of my background, I'm a paramedic for those 20 years, in addition to working in the emergency management office. Part of what we wanted to talk to you guys about today was the importance of knowing and understanding the medical side of recognizing heat illnesses as it relates to heat safety. The most significant heat illness that people experience is heat stroke. Heat stroke can be deadly, and it's one of the things that, as paramedics and firefighters, we want people to call 911 for so that we can get to you and help you or somebody else in the community. When you're trying to decide what if it is a heat stroke, if you're helping somebody, one of the easiest things to see is, or check for is a high body temperature. That's not always something that can be done with a thermometer. I don't carry a thermometer in my pocket. I don't know about the rest of you, but if somebody's feeling very hot to the touch, just like you would check a child's temperature when, if you're a parent and you feel, with your hand that they are hot. If they feel hot, they're hot, and it doesn't necessarily matter the number. Um, the next thing that you're going to notice is that in addition to being hot, their skin is going to be red. And the reason for that is because the body has been trying to cool itself and it's starting to lose its ability to cool itself effectively. And the skin is oftentimes going to be a dry. It's no longer going to be sweaty. It can be damp, but you're not going to see the profuse sweating like you might see in other heat emergencies. And that's because you have dehydrated to the point where you have nothing left to give. If you're in a position where you feel comfortable assessing somebody, you might notice that they have a fast pulse, but it's also going to be a very strong pulse. And this happens because the body's trying to get blood back to its core to support those vital organs to keep you alive. And so it starts pressurizing with, by shutting down some of the vessels further out. And so you're going to notice that stronger pulse because that pressure is getting higher. The patient might exhibit or complain about having a headache or dizziness. Headaches are pretty common with most heat related emergencies, and dizziness can be fairly common too, depending on the person. The other thing you're going to have people complaining about is nausea. They might be vomiting, they might not. If they're nauseous, you want to support them, keeping them comfortable, but you don't want to allow them to drink anything because we don't want them to throw up. We want them to maintain their airway. And if they become confused, that is definitely a sign of an emergency. And that's pretty easy to understand. If they are not answering basic questions, do they know where they are? Do they know their own name? Things of that nature. You're going to be able to assess that pretty quickly. And then obviously, if they've passed out or if they've just become unresponsive or they were unresponsive before you got there, all those things, if you were to find somebody that was in that position, you'd want to call 911 right away and share the information that you have. If you know the patient, you can share the patient's information. If you don't, you can give us rough idea of, are they how old are they, male or female? Where are you, so that we can find you. And once you've done that, if you have the ability to and you can do it safely, try to move that patient to a cooler place. The sooner we cool these patients off, the better. It's important that they cool relatively quickly, because the longer that they are at these elevated temperatures, the more damage that's being done to their body. By moving them into a cooler place, if you're outside, a shaded area, if you can get indoors to an indoor area, you also want to you can apply cool cloths, or I would not necessarily recommend putting them in a cool bath, especially if they're confused. But if they're able to follow instructions and you can help them into a cool bath in a safe way so that they're not getting into more harm by being in a body of water, that is also recommended. And again, don't give anybody that's experiencing a heat stroke anything to eat or drink. We don't want them to vomit. We want them to protect their airway. It's important that we recognize these signs and symptoms for a heat stroke, because this is truly the most significant heat emergency. Leading up to a heat stroke, you'll find that people will start exhibiting signs and symptoms earlier. People will be experiencing what we call heat exhaustion. Unlike a heat stroke where folks have maybe stopped sweating and they become dry, patients that are suffering from a heat exhaustion are going to have very heavy sweating. They're going to be dripping their faces, their heads, their shirts are going to be saturated. Um, that is a good sign, because that means that they still have fluids in their body that they can sweat out and try to cool. That also means that their body still does have a way to try to cool itself. You will notice that instead of their skin being hot, that they might have cold, clammy skin. They might be pale instead of red. And their pulse will still be fast, but their pulse is going to be a little bit weaker. If you were to check their pulse if you were feeling for that pulse, it's going to be a little bit weaker. That's because the body is trying to move the blood as far out and to close to the surface of the skin to allow the blood to cool, and that's how your body cools itself. Again, these patients could experience nausea and vomiting. They're also likely to be experiencing muscle cramps. The reason for this is because they've got they're losing their um, electrolytes, their salts, as they sweat. And so they're going to experience the cramps from that. They're going to be tired, they're going to be weak, they might be dizzy, again, headache, and they might also begin passing out. The big difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke is recognizing if they're confused. If they're confused, heat stroke. If they're not, probably heat exhaustion. You're going to treat them the same way, though. You're going to move them to a cool place. You're going to loosen their clothes, cool them off with damp cloths. If it's a heat exhaustion and they're not nauseous, that would be okay to give them some sips of water as well. And then heat cramps is what leads us up to heat exhaustion. That happens a lot of times when we're doing intense physical labor or exercise outside. We could be sweating heavily. We might experience some muscle pain or spasms, but nothing like the cramps that you would get with the heat exhaustion. Best thing to do for that is just help them, or if it's you, move into a cool place. Drink plenty of water or sports drinks. Sports drinks are nice in this instance because they do have those electrolytes, and wait for the cramps to go away before you get back into that physical activity. If the cramps are lasting a little longer, or if you're on a low sodium diet or have heart problems, that can complicate matters.
It's time for trivia. Some medications can increase your risk of heat-related illness. True or false? Webinar attendees got it 100% correct. It is true.
There are a certain classifications of medications, and there are some that tend to make us more at risk for heat-related illness. The ones that I can think of off the top of my head are any type of medications that you take to help control blood pressure. Because those type of medications can limit the rate at which your heart can beat, and it can also limit the strength at which your heart can pump that blood. So that is one certain type of medication that can affect our ability to cope with the heat. Other medications are going to be diuretics, and other different types of heart medications, just because by the nature of what they do, the side effect is, making those heat-related illnesses worse. Additionally, antidepressants and antipsychotic medications. So for patients that might deal with mental health diagnoses, those medications tend to affect our body's ability to effectively regulate our temperature, especially with these extreme heats. And unfortunately, that does affect a large portion of our unhoused community members, and they're already a vulnerable population. That makes it that much riskier for them. and then just in addition to those type of medications, is any type of use and abuse of any recreational drugs or alcohol will also affect our ability to cope with the heat and keep our body from cooling the way it should be. That's why it is so important to stay hydrated. Unfortunately, because of some of the medications that we do take, sometimes staying hydrated just doesn't cut it, and that's why it's so important that we know where we can go to be safe. And if it's not in our own home, using our community resources to find those heat relief centers. As we finish talking about our different types of heat-related illnesses, sunburns and heat rashes. These are typically minor type of heat-related emergencies, if even emergencies. Sunburn is something that most people that live in Arizona have experienced. You're going to be having too much exposure to the elements, too much exposure to the sun, and it doesn't have to be hot. It can happen during the winter as well. You're going to get that red skin. It's going to be warm to the touch. You might blister if it's a severe enough burn. What to do is just to avoid the sun and cover up if you are experiencing a sunburn. Nice loose fitting cool cloths on the areas to just try to relieve some of that burning sensation. You can put moisturizing lotion on the sunburned areas. And if you do have a sunburn that is significant enough, and it does blister, don't pop the blisters. An open blister is the same thing as an open wound, and it's an invitation for infection, and you don't want to allow that to happen if you can all avoid it. Another thing that you might experience is heat rash, and that's not necessarily exposure to the sun, but just being exposed to high heat or high heat and humidity, where your body is sweating a lot, and maybe not the sweat is not allowed to dissipate and evaporate enough, and that can create some irritation on the skin, causing small red clusters of red bumps, maybe some small blisters, and usually the neck, groin, armpit, elbow creases, areas where the skin touches itself repeatedly, and that's what causes that irritation. Again, stay in a nice cool place, dry air, in a nice dry place too, so you can dry off. And then if once you're dry, if you want, you can use some baby powder or something like that to help soothe that rash and alleviate those symptoms. So, but that, I believe, kind of wraps up any of the medical emergencies that we wanted to discuss with you about regarding heat safety.
I want to introduce myself. My name is Robert Campa. I'm the city emergency manager. I've been with the city for about 3.5 years. Prior to that, I was with the city of Phoenix, and then before that, with the state emergency management. So, all in all, I've been involved with this field for about 10.5 years, and I appreciate them inviting us out to talk about this. Part of my purview is really talking about emergency preparedness, community outreach, so really getting out there and educating our community on ways that they can prevent themselves from being caught into not only a large scale disaster, but also something that is pretty near and dear to my heart, is protecting us, especially during these heat summer months and heat safety months. So I just want to talk a little bit about how are they preventable. So obviously, weather is pretty predictable, and we get a pretty good advance notice. We have a really robust National Weather Service team here in the city of Phoenix, and so we we rely on them heavily, and so we understand when there's going to be days that there is going to be extreme heat approaching us. And obviously, if you've lived in Arizona for more than a year, you understand that our summer months are pretty extreme. So here we're talking about extreme heat outlook, extreme heat watches, and extreme heat warning. So just the really difference is an outlook is a minor. Extreme heat event is going to occur for 3 to 7 days. Extreme heat event is when it's 12 to 24 hours. And then when you have extreme heat events for the next 34 hours, that's when it's major. So when we talk about extreme heat, I mean, it can vary, but we're usually talking about 100 plus temperatures. And I believe last year, if I'm not mistaken, we had about 111 days of 100 plus weather. And so from some of the information that I've been getting through our National Weather Service partners is that it's going to be kind of similar for this year as well. So we can expect some type of similar dates, and as far as how long they're going to be 100 plus days.
It's time for trivia. Where are you safer during extreme heat? Inside, outside, or it depends? Webinar attendees got it right. The answer is it depends.
Well, I'm glad you guys answered. It depends on some of these situation because inside is not always going to be your safest bet, and also it's really just depends on the environment and what you have around you. So obviously, if you are having inside a place that you can cool down and it is cool enough, you have a functioning air system, or you have some way of staying cool, then obviously inside is going to be the best bet for you. But sometimes folks may not have access to a functional AC, or there may be a moment in time where their AC does not work anymore, and so they are stuck inside a house. So at that time, it may not be the safest to be inside of that home. Also, sometimes folks, their vehicles may not work. I know when I moved here back in 2007 from Texas, it wasn't as hot, and so I thought I was going to be able to function here without an AC. And did I get proved wrong during the summer months, being stuck on the freeway in the middle of the summer without an working air system? So there's not always going to be the best bet to be inside somewhere to stay away from the heat. As you can see here in front of you, you have a dashboard that's represented. This is found on our website in mesaaz.gov. But these are all preliminary, so I do want to preface this with it's not completed yet. We're still going through some data reviews, and we're working with the county very closely to ensure that we get an accurate representation of numbers. But as you can see here, we had about 65 total deaths related to heat, and this was as of January of this year. 37 were heat caused and 28 contributed. So the difference is contributed, it was just a factor of it. So there was also underlying factors that come into play with that reason. Could be a plethora of things. And so I won't get into that much, but you can see 22 of these deaths were indoors. So that means that people thought that being indoors was going to be safer for them to be and to avoid the sun and out in the heat. But ultimately, if you're not checking your ACs, if you're not making sure things are working properly, or if you're thinking that you can survive, inside of a home without utilizing your AC system because of any reason, it could be you don't want a high bill, which I know last year when I got my bill of $450, I think I almost had a heat stroke. And so things like that happen. So it's understandable, and we want to definitely be there to assist you to help bring that number down. We definitely don't want to see 22 people who have shelter, who have means of being indoors somewhere, perishing away from something like that. So you can see here some of our hotspot areas in that map that's in front of you. The ones that are obviously darker red are the ones that had higher account numbers. So these are really areas that we want to push forward to provide some additional community outreach and education to these folks in these areas so they understand the resources that are available for them. So who's at risk? So not everybody has the same risk factor when it comes to heat. So children obviously, have a big risk. Older adults, people that may be outside, are construction workers, folks that are working at our parks, our police officers, our firemen, they're out there in the middle of the streets, in 120-degree weather, putting out fires or responding to calls with a lot of these gear on. And so these folks are all at risk. Also, people with disabilities are more at risk. So these folks, if you know folks like that who are in your family or who live around you, who are neighbors, just check on them. Make sure that they're fine. Make sure their ACs are working before we get into the really hot time of this month of this year. I'm sorry. More males are affected than females, so it is definitely something that's going to affect your male population more than it is your females. And also, if you have no AC service, if you don't have any type of system in your home, if you live in a mobile home, if you live in a trailer, those can get really hot very quickly, and it's hard to cool down a trailer or mobile home or even house at that point if you don't have a functioning or proper AC working. Cars, and on my next slide, I'll kind of talk a little bit more about how hot it can get inside of a car, and then construction work sites. So if you have family members or friends or community members who work in these type of fields, just ensure that they're protecting themselves and doing some of the things that Captain Mogelian discussed to how to prevent some of these type of illnesses from happening. 80 degrees is a nice day for us. We think that's a great day. We want to go out there and enjoy spring training, or we want to go out there and enjoy some nice golf. But inside your cars, if you're leaving them parked for 10 hours, and it's 80 degrees outside, it's nice. But inside your car without any heat, you're going to notice it's going to be about 109. 118, and then it can get up to 123 degrees. So can you imagine when it's 115 degrees out there, we're probably reaching 150, 160 degrees inside of your actual car. So it's very important that you understand that although it's nicer outside, coming into your vehicle with non-working AC, you're not checking on people or making sure that if you have somebody in your backseat that you're checking on them to make sure you take everybody out. It can be deadly within a matter of hours of how fast these cars can heat up. The same happens with your houses. We may think they take longer to heat up, but if you haven't had a working AC or proper AC for hours or months on end, you can see the impacts of that. And your house being 90, 100 degrees is not a a very livable space in there. So just keep in mind that just because it says it's 80 or 90 degrees outside, that doesn't mean that it's going to be that temperature inside your car or house, especially if they're there for an extended period of time. So just ways you can avoid it. So just kind of some of the things that we've already talked about with Captain Morgallion. So stay hydrated with water. Don't drink sodas. Don't drink very sugary beverages, energy drinks, things like that, especially if you're out doing things like trying to hike early in the morning or any type of physical activity outside. Try to avoid those things. Stay in an air-conditioned area. I know Lindsay will talk about some of the resources we have available here. Use those. If you don't have somewhere that you can get cool with or things like that, the city does provide a ton of resources for you to be able to avoid that. And then as always, you can dress like the gentleman that we just saw on the slide. Wear some lightweight clothes, wear light colored, loose fitting clothes, things like that will help you stay a little bit more cooler during these summer months and be prepared for heat safety.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lindsay Blinky. I'm with our Community Services Department, and specifically with Human Services, where a lot of our heat relief programs from the City of Mesa are organized and provided back out to the public. So I'm glad to be here today just to share some of those resources with you. So as you can see on the screen, the city is really working every summer to assess what the needs are, provide a lot of different programs. So for the respite and cooling centers that you see here, that's one resource that we've been working on for several summers. And we really work with a lot of our partners, with our churches locally, and a lot of our nonprofit partners to have a very collaborative effort in providing some safe places for people to go in those times where maybe your air conditioning is not working, or for our unhoused community, this is a place where people can get in from out of the elements as well. And so what we will be doing is sharing our website with you through and where all this information will be located. And a lot of it is really coming online May 1st. So mark that on your calendar and really keep that website handy. It's mesaaz.gov /heat safety. And so on there, once we have them uploaded and ready to go, you'll see a whole list of our respite and cooling centers. So again, these are places that you can go during the day. They all will have their different hours of operations listed and the different services that they provide. And each one is a little bit different, but all of them have in common that they provide a cool, safe place for people to come in from outside of the elements. There is water available. And at our respite centers, there's a lot of other services available as well. So again, those will all be listed on our website, and just good to know about should your air conditioning go out, or should you know someone that needs a safe place to be during the hotter hours of the day. Last year, we also started a portable air conditioning loan program. And so this is a temporary solution for those times when someone is without an air conditioning unit. Maybe it breaks in the middle of the summer and you really need that emergency fix where you have a temporary unit that you can loan from us. So this is a limited resource, but we really try to serve Mesa's most vulnerable residents and provide a portable unit. It cools several hundred square feet at a time and just allows people to stay safe and cooled in their home while they're working towards a permanent solution in fixing that air conditioning unit or finding a resolution for that. So again, this will be posted on our website beginning May 1st, and something that people in need can apply for. And my staff helps to operate that program and provide units to the public on a loaned basis And that was really effective last year. We were able to help a lot of people. So we look forward to doing that again this year. So Mesa has a summer electric assistance program, and that serves people that have Mesa electricity within that service grid that City of Mesa provides electricity to. So if you have SRP, this particular program wouldn't apply to you. But for those that live in that area, it is geared towards folks that are on lower income that can get a temporary adjustment to their utility bill if they meet the qualifications of the program. So that's something that the city finds really important to help folks just make those financial adjustments so that they can keep their utilities on over the summer and keep the air conditioning going, which is so important. You'll also see on here that we have the 211 call center. So this is a regional number that you can call. And there's a whole host of services that are connected to this number. So one service that is included is transportation during the summer. So there is some heat relief transportation. If you can't get to the safe place, a respite center, a cooling center, or maybe somewhere else in your community, you can call this number, and there are opportunities to get transportation services and a whole other host of different type of human services that might be applicable to you. They also have a website, and you can really look through and see, depending on what your particular need is, it's a helpful resource to have available to you if you're dealing with heat relief issues or other social service issues throughout your day. Finally, we have our hydration donation and distribution. So this is a public campaign where water is collected throughout the summer, and then it is really put back into all the different program sites and heat relief and cooling centers that are operated throughout the city. Our first responders, our firefighters, our park rangers, our police officers that are out on the street really interacting with people, folks that might be compromised by the heat. All of this water that is contributed to the fund really goes right back out into the community and is provided at our libraries and other places too throughout. So that's another big resource that is available in Mesa throughout every summer. Just a note, so this is being recorded, and for 2025, the summer of 2025, these are the services available. If you're watching this in the future at another time, always going back to that Mesa website, we will continue to update services. We really try to assess the needs of the community and adjust our services as needed. So these are the services right now, but they may change in the future, and going to that website will really help you.
It's time for trivia. Do you have a heat safety plan? Yes? No? What is a heat safety plan? 58% of the webinar attendees said that they don't know what a heat safety plan is, or they don't have one. So here are some tips to create your heat safety plan.
What we're talking about when it comes to a heat safety plan is really thinking about all of the content you've learned today. We just want you to think about, if your air conditioning were to go out on June 25th, where are some safe places that you could go in your neighborhood that you could immediately leave your home if you needed to and get to a safe place? So in my neighborhood, for example, I know that there is a public library right down the street, and my kids and I go there all the time. We know it very well, and it would be a safe place for us to go and hang out for a few hours, enjoy the book, and use that as a safe place for us to be. We also know there's a big shopping center down the street. There's a couple of malls within driving distance. We know those places well also. And those are some safe places that are cooler, that we could maybe go sit, walk around a bit, and be safe. And then, of course, we know about some of the cooling centers and where the typical locations are in relationship to our house. So if we needed additional services, or maybe some of those other places are closed, those would be really great places that we would be welcome and that would be safe for our family to be in, and to get some water, maybe some snacks, and just have an air-conditioned space to be in. We also kind of list out what neighbors are around us, and knowing those folks, having their phone numbers in my phone so I can I can check on some of them because I know some of them are more vulnerable. I have several older neighbors, one that just lost her husband, for example, so I should really be checking in with her, making sure Frida's safe, that she has a plan, and she knows she can call me if she ever needs a safe place to be, or help with anything, especially during those hotter months. I think you get the idea. Really knowing your community, even if it's just one person you can check in with, and inviting them to check in on you too. If you are someone that lives alone or is more vulnerable, really having those conversations and inviting that kind of help in. Neighbors typically like to help each other like that. There's community centers and places of worship too that might offer that type of connection. So just finding what is helpful to you in your situation and just thinking that through a little bit so that you're not caught off guard if that were to happen. Then also informing yourself about the programs we've mentioned today. So you now know that the Mesa has our air conditioning loan program, and that could be really handy if your air conditioner goes out. And also really sharing that information with others. You can share this recording. So if you found the information useful today, this will be available. So you could have your friends or neighbors watch it and get that information. We will again share a lot of those links and the website, and allow you just to share those tips that have been presented today and all of the resources that we've talked about. In addition, if you're looking for other ways to help, we do have that hydration donation campaign, and that's an active donation. So you can provide bottles of water to the campaign or monetary contribution. And that again goes right back out to the community and all of our partners, and most importantly, to the people that are impacted by heat throughout the summer and need that kind of support.
Remember, make a heat safety plan. Locate air-conditioned spaces near your house like public libraries, shopping centers, malls, or cooling centers. Connect with your neighbors to check on each other. Learn about the resources available in Mesa and share the information with your community, including this video.